Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today's piece of content is part of a collab group called the EDC Collab Group. So just quickly about this, there'll be several other members of the EDC Collab Group today making a similar piece of content. So when this is finished, have a look in the description below or search for the EDC Collab Group and you'll be able to see everybody else's content on a similar theme. Now, part of the EDC Collab Group is that we all regularly take a certain theme and make a similar piece of content about it. Today's piece of content is around how I define budget. Now, I think there's a few things really. I think mainly there's three things to discuss here, because it's definitely something that gets asked about a lot. And it is very individual to everybody exactly how you define budget, or what it is that it has to kind of sit between. Mainly it will be within a certain goal, and that is that it doesn't go over a certain price. For me, and there was no kind of working out about this, so I suppose if I think about it, really there is. For me, when I first got into EDC probably about 10 years ago, budget for me was anything that was kind of £30 or less, which is probably now about $35, 35 euros. I think the euro and the dollar are pretty close. I think over the last 10 years it hasn't really changed all that much, although it probably has grown with a little bit of interest or inflation over the years. So I'd say anything that is roughly, say, £40 or less is what I'd consider to be a budget item. And generally a budget item for me is something that I will purchase, and it's not necessarily something I have to think about too much. For myself personally, I struggle a lot with buyer's remorse. If I have to buy, let's say our television broke, or the washing machine or something like that broke, even though I know it's something that I have to buy because I need to buy it to do whatever, I get really bad buyer's remorse, and I get like a really bad kind of anxiety about it. So it's almost the opposite to that, and that is something that you'll see and you'll just think, I like that, there you go, take my money. Now, how did I get to this? There wasn't like a specific, oh, it needs to be 3 times my salary for 3 hours, anything kind of like that. Generally, it was just a figure that I plucked out of the air at the time, because to me that equated to something else. So that could have been my mobile phone bill at the time. It could have been how much it would have cost to pay my council tax for a week at the time. It could have been my water rates. It was something, as I mentioned before, you know, I get this kind of remorse when I spend larger amounts. It needed to be something that wouldn't be a complication to something else should I spend that and then realise, oh damn it, I needed to have put that money towards paying my car insurance that month. That was really it for me. I was outside of EDC. I game a lot. I'm on Xbox a lot. Roughly 10 years ago, it was about £40, $39.99 for a new Xbox game. So if I could buy a new Xbox game that month, knowing that it wasn't going to affect something else, then yeah, that's kind of how I got to that figure. Now, I think it's important to stress the difference between budget or value for money and cheap. I'm of an age where, certainly for me, the word cheap and value for money or budget are pretty much the same, but I know the connotation towards what cheap means nowadays certainly has a slightly different meaning, and I don't think that necessarily budget always has to mean cheap. Now, just to explain, just in case you're the same as me, so budget is, you know, it doesn't cost, or at least it costs £40 or less, whereas cheap means that it costs less because it's crap, it's just rubbish. There are some brands out there that make exceptionally good stuff that is still cheap, that is still budget. I struggle a lot making YouTube content because cheap is just a word that comes to me very naturally, but I know that people think, oh, cheap, but Randy's saying that this is rubbish. So 3 great examples of budget items that are all definitely below £40. these three knives here. So French knife maker Opinel, these guys make some absolutely amazing knives. This was my granddad's and it's just a bit stuck at the moment. But you can pick these up for next to nothing. I think this is a number 8. I think it is a number 8. It doesn't have the markings on it anymore, unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure this is either a number 8 or a number 9, and you can pick these up for around about £20. The steel on these is great. The kind of the fit and the finish. Now, it's not going to be exactly the same as like a £600 Sebenza knife. But this is my granddad's. When he passed away, I kind of found this, and he's had this for an extremely long time. And although I just had to do a little bit of sanding on here, I put some Rust-Oleum, whatever it's called, to get some off the blade. It really is like new. Another great knife company is Ford. So this is their peasant knife. It's made with a really nice Sandvik steel on here. You can pick these up for less than £15. These are great beater knives, but if you wanted to keep this and make this as your first choice on a knife, then you certainly can do. The last one you've probably seen in my hand as well, Victorinox Swiss Army knives. These things are absolutely amazing, and you certainly shouldn't poo-poo these when you think that these can be picked up at less than £40. This is my Pioneer. I think these are, at the moment, these are around about £30. And these are exceptionally good knives. There are people that will still carry a £300 or £400 knife, but still have one of these as a secondary backup to do all of the kind of the donkey work, all of the leg work that, you know, they don't want to do to their expensive knife because they want to keep that looking nice and clean. And they rely on these. These were made for a reason, to be given out to soldiers, designed to be mass produced, but because you have that Swiss engineering in here, these things will last you a lifetime. They really will. So hopefully that kind of just shows that just because something is budget doesn't necessarily mean that it's cheap. Now, the last point I think is just as important, if not more important, than the first two, and that is that hopefully there should be no snobbery in EDC. Whether you're a multimillionaire or whether you're somebody that's struggling and maybe you're on minimum wage, then there should be no, oh wow, you can only afford this much towards a knife each month, or you can only afford this much to a bag this month. Your budget is 100% down to you, and that depends on whatever your monthly income is, dependent on what your monthly outgoings are, and then what in your head you feel is an acceptable amount that you can spend on these extra boys' toys. Because it's, I mean, let's face it, that's what the vast majority of the EDC items that we carry are for. Yes, I carry a knife daily, but I work in a profession where I'm not cutting open hay bales every day. It certainly isn't a farming tool or an agricultural tool for me. It's just a peripheral there that I can use because I can get into an Amazon box faster than if I try to use my thumbnail. And that is important, and that is key. Don't judge yourself on other people's budgets. If it's something that, you know, you've got to work towards to get to that, then that's fine. That really genuinely is just life. I feel like I'm kind of giving out some sort of parables here on how we should live our lives. But then on the opposite side, life comes with highs and lows. When I had my daughters, me and my wife, our income drastically reduced, and there was a lot of things that we had to cut back on. So it's all about cutting your cloth accordingly and making sure that you can live your life around these peripherals that we just choose to carry in our pocket. And if it is that a friend, if it is that their goalposts shift slightly, we just accept that and we understand that their life has changed ever so slightly. I think it's really important that we certainly don't judge anybody else on our own standards, and we always make sure that we are looking possibly to understand their life, and that's why they have a different set of goalposts to the ones that we do. That one got a little bit preachy towards the end, but I feel that really is just as important as those first two. For me, when I first started got into this, that £30 amount, which kind of grew to about £40 over the last few years, that could be completely different to somebody else. If you're lucky enough that you have an income that you or your first knife that you ever go out with is like a really nice Sebenza, then that's great. That is awesome. But yes, there are other people that for their first knife it might be a Swiss Army knife, and a Swiss Army knife is great and is just as useful as a £600 knife. Yeah, they did get a little bit preachy towards the end, but I hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, that's how I define budget, and that was kind of my story on when I first started in EDC, and I kind of had to get my head around what I could spend. I don't know if I mentioned this, but generally this is per item as well. So although it would be great to be able to go out and get a wallet, a knife, a pen, or however many items that you think is like sufficient to be like a regular kind of daily carry, these would probably be individual items for those. Although I'm sure if you went on Dom's channel on Max Level EDC, I'm sure he could probably find a full EDC carry for about $40. Yeah, so anyway, as I mentioned at the beginning of this is part of the EDC Collab Group. There will be other amazing members of the Collab Group making some content as well, so check the description below so that you can see more from them. I think I might have some links to the 3 knives that we showed today, so if I can find sorry about that, if I can find those, I will certainly leave those below for you so that you can check those out. I'll also leave some of my social media links here on Moorlander EDC and my sister channel, Moorlander Tactical. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. Now I think there's something important. The last 2 points really on this. My £40. If I pay for this now, is this something that will mean that there's a knock-on effect that I now can't pay my gas and electricity? I can't pay my water rent. It's not water rent. What's it called? Water. Shit. It's called your water. What is your water called? Water rates? Oh, sure. Comes around budget. Well, at least the first one is budget and cheap. I don't think budget and cheap are necessarily equal. No, important as the first 2 points, and that is that there should be no snobbery in EDC. Everybody's budget is completely different. If you're lucky enough that you have sufficient expendable cash. What's the word? God, this damn cough. Oh, kids are great. Kids are brilliant. They're like walking petri dishes, coming home every other week with a cold, the flu. Oh, Dad, I've got a cold. Oh, thanks. Now I have. That was me. A pillow on my bed out of frustration, not as a miner's face. Anyway, I don't know whether I can leave that on YouTube. I might get in trouble for that one. Yeah, cool. Hope you're good. Make sure you check out everyone else's content and give them some love. Yeah, cool. See you soon. Bye.